But before we start today's interview, I just wanted to give a quick mention to our sponsors, because this month the podcast is brought to you by Flipper, which is the #1 marketplace to buy and sell online businesses and startups. So, do you run your own online business? And have you ever considered selling your website, your store, your tech, or your app? Because with world-class combined matching technology, dedicated brokers and end-to-end services, all at the most efficient price, Flipper is making it simple to sell your online business. So to get a free valuation, visit my friends at flipper.com/techtalks, where each month thousands of online business owners exit with Flipper. Again, visit flipper.com/techtalks. Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, a place where we demystify complex technologies every day and provide real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping entire industries. But we do all this in a language that everyone can understand. And today, Valentin Pletnev, the 23-year-old CEO and co-founder of Cosmos-based Quasar Finance, is going to join us on the podcast to talk about his story and his mission to bring simplicity, fairness, and ease of use to DeFi, all with the aim of opening the sector to much wider adoption. So today, I invite you all to join me in demystifying the world of DeFi in a great conversation. So buckle up and hold on tight, because it's time for me to beam your ears all the way to Barcelona, where Valentin is waiting to share his story today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening in. Super excited. My name is Valentin Pletnev. I'm one of the co-founders and the current CEO of Quasar Labs, a little startup that's building the Quasar blockchain. And what we are trying to do in one sentence is connect global capital to professional strategies in DeFi, to allow everyone globally to have exposure to the new market that is crypto without having to trust a single entity with their money. Because as we've seen this year, that doesn't work out well in the long run.
100%. And I'd love to take you back in time, before blockchain, before crypto. Can you remember where your passion for technology came from, or just a moment that would ultimately put you on this path that you're on today? Or as they say in those Hollywood movies, what's your origin story?
Yeah, good question. Very early. So to give mild background, I'm the first one in my family to be born in the West, in Germany. Both my parents come from ex-socialist, ex-communist states, and also grew up there and had to adapt to the capitalist system that we know. And so, I was a young boy in Bavaria, stuck out a little bit. This little Bavarian town was mainly, Germans all around. Yeah. But the one thing that I remember was when I got a Nintendo DS for my 7th birthday, and I played a Star Wars game on it. I forgot the name, but that was the day I think technology kind of really blew me away. Because I remember just, you look at the graphics today and you laugh because it's like 20 pixels and you can only move left and right. But back then I felt like I was teleported into another universe. And from that stemmed my entire love for tech, and what it allows was always what was exciting for me. Because if you think about it, ever since humanity exists, tech was always at the cutting edge of civilization. Just back then we used to call it the Stone Age moving to the Bronze Age, right? Yeah. But if you think about that as tech, you're advancing the technology you have at your hands. So, tech is never going to go away. It has always been here. It just changes and transforms. And so learning the new possibilities of what you can do was exciting for me from that day.
And for any parents listening, the reason I always ask that question is find out more about the origin story and what put you on here. But the amount of people, successful people throughout the world, that have all said video games was what put them on this path. And so many parents now are video games are bad. But the phrase you used there, it teleported you into another world, opened up your imagination, curiosity. That stuff's so important. And eventually,
to add to that, I used to play the German championship in Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, which is one of the most played games in Europe. And I felt like an outsider in high school and didn't really have a lot to connect with people with. I always felt a bit out of it. But playing video games allowed me to kind of become something great that I like really love. Like it was my skill, was the thing that no one was better at in school. It was the thing that I could identify with. And I think for parents to understand if their kid doesn't fit into the social norms of school with the new tech we have, they don't have to fit into that norm. They just have to be able to, you just have to allow them to find a norm they fit in. And video games is a great enabler of that.
Yeah, and they can find their own community scattered all over the world, which again, I think is healthy, speaking with people from all over the world each night, rather than just the people in your class, in your town, in your city, etc.
Absolutely.
I mean, that path for you, though, would lead you to Quasar. So for anyone listening outside of this space, it can be incredibly daunting or even overwhelming. So can you tell me more about the story behind the company and the problems that it's set out to solve with technology?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I would explain it like this. I've been in crypto since I'm 16, and I realized back then that no one cared about the things I was trying to teach about, like, decentralization, permissionlessness, having a wallet, Bitcoin, hashes, addresses. No one cared, because you didn't tell them something that they can benefit from. You were just explaining a system that they couldn't see the value in. And so when the COVID crash happened in the stock market, I told my family to give me all the money they have, and I started investing into stocks very aggressively. And I'm not going to pretend I'm a great investor, because everybody made money in that year. Yeah. But I think it showed to me what you can do if you have time to really invest into something. My parents did not have the ability to profit from that, but I could do it for them because I put all my time and money into it. I did nothing every day than just researching, reading into stock news and all of that. And the same is true for crypto. If you have people that do nothing else throughout the entire day but look into that market and try to figure out what's happening, they are going to have an edge over someone that can't do that. But the entire philosophy of crypto is to democratize access to financial products, to democratize access to free value transfer globally, to make it independent of nationality or age or anything else that you have going on in your life. And so what Quasar's philosophy is that we want to allow easy access to DeFi native strategies. And I'm going to try not to use buzzwords, but what that essentially means is that if you are a normal person that definitely has heard about crypto and blockchain in the last few years, because it's everywhere, crypto.com advertising on every poster, Binance. What you're going to be faced with is centralized entities trying to tell you that they're going to do it for you, right? Mm-hmm. You see, let's take FTX, the perfect example, right? They were onboarding so many new users to crypto. A lot of users, their first wallet they ever had was FTX. Their first purchase into crypto was FTX. Because what FTX promised them is the ease of use of any app they've ever used, but with the returns of crypto, of DeFi, of the stuff that they heard all their friends tell about how much money they made. And so what they don't tell you is what they actually did is combine the risk of centralized entities with the risk of DeFi. Yeah. They were hiding that under the rug. They were not telling you that you are essentially exposing yourself to everything bad about both worlds if you use their product. And so that proved itself. They just frauded customers. They took all the funds, they took all the money, and the promises were false. And we saw that a lot of times, and we're going to keep seeing that a lot of the users that are the most vulnerable are going to be the one caught off guard by these players selling them a product that doesn't exist. And so my motivation really is that I want to front run that process, if that makes sense. I want to catch them before those centralized entities do, and give them a chance to understand why permissionlessness, non-custodial trading, and all those buzzwords that we in DeFi use actually mean tangibly for them that they are exposed to less risk and that they will not suffer the same fate as a lot of new users did.
And there's so many things I'm excited to talk with you about today, because each day on this podcast, I always try and demystify complex technologies that other people may find daunting or maybe got lots of questions, but a little bit afraid to ask about. And one of those big topics at the moment, of course, is Appchain thesis. And for people outside of the industry, can you explain what Appchain thesis is and maybe provide a case for and against? Because again, it is a hot topic, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. I would go a step back and try to at least explain the current landscape of blockchain. So everyone probably has heard of Ethereum. So Ethereum, in layman terms, is just a global computer. It's a global operating system that gives you and allows you to build programs on it. So you can imagine it's essentially one instance of Windows, for example, or Linux, running on thousands of machines globally at the same time. Yeah. And everyone can just publish a new program onto that instance. So what this allows is it has a sync of what really happened. If you click on the program on one of those computers, all of them are going to acknowledge that someone just clicked on that program. And so that's what we talk about as consensus. It is basically a way to prove that something happened by distributing the recording of those actions. There's one issue with Ethereum though, and it's that, as you can imagine, and anyone that works in systems and backend for tech is going to, the hairs are going to spike up, because they're going to realize that, wait a minute, all of this is running on the same instance at the same time. That's a nightmare. That's horrible. And it's all in production at the same time. You're basically touching production products like while they're live and updating them. And yes, that is a reality of Ethereum. It is incredibly complex. It's incredibly heavy. And like it's multiple terabytes big in size, the blockchain. And every transaction being recorded, you can hash it multiple times into smaller data packages, but it doesn't change the fact that all of it needs to be recorded at the same time on the same instance. And so what you run into is you have a limited bandwidth of what can be executed. And if the need to, do actions like trading or depositing or whatever you want to do on Ethereum, if those exceed the bandwidth, you start bidding for the bandwidth space. You start paying the system like, hey, I really want my transaction to go through. I really want this action to go through. I'm willing to pay more than other people to get it through. And that's when you get to that, what most people heard about last year, where Ethereum gas prices, what we call it, go to hundreds of dollars, because the need for the transaction space is so much greater than the bandwidth back then. So people just keep bidding themselves up. And that is very problematic for new users, of course, because it's if you can buy a stock for $1 commission, why would you want to use Ethereum for $150 per transaction? That is just bonkers. And there's a lot of solutions built on Ethereum to address that, but that is the FAT protocol thesis in like a simple term. The benefits are it's all in one cohesive system, it's all executed on one instance, and you can interface with any other program in that instance. So that's the benefits. The negatives is very limited bandwidth, super expensive to do if the necessity for the block space keeps increasing. So actually, whenever it becomes interesting to use it, that's when it becomes more expensive to use. So it really hinders its growth in the long term. Now, the Appchain thesis is basically, you look at this and you say, okay, but what if every program is their own instance? So what if all programs are their own instances independently, and you just you agree on like a communication standard between them? And I like to use the anecdote of a train and a car. So Ethereum is a freight train. It has the biggest engine. It has the most, developers. It has the most engineers working on improving the engine. But it's going down a track of rails at 500 miles per hour. There's no way you're ever going to stop it again. So you have to, work on it while it's driving down. And every single program being built is another container it has to pull. So that's how I explain it here. It's incredibly robust. You can shoot at the train, it will keep driving. You can derailing it is virtually impossible, but also the engine has to pull every single container, and that's a ton of work and a ton of it's very hard to do. There's a reason that only Ethereum is as big as it is. And the Appchain thesis is, a couple car manufacturers agreeing that the car should probably be between this wide and this wide. And so we build roads that are that wide so that everybody can drive their cars on it. Like a car should not be wider than that and should not be slimmer than that. And so now you have a range of cars and a range of roads on that cars can drive on if they comply to that standard. So that's kind of the Appchain thesis. You can theoretically park a car and work on the engine without it going down the road. You can drive on the same roads with the same cars. So like the same garages work for most cars, the same shops and parking spots work for the same cars. So you now have a standard where all of these different cars engage in one system, but they're all independent instances. So that's the Appchain thesis. That's where you say any program should have their own blockchain, which before we go deeper into that, I know how crazy that sounds.
Yeah.
But then you agree on a standard at which those different instances can communicate on. So that's Appchain versus Fed protocol thesis.
And what would you say are the pros and cons very quickly, just off the top of your head?
So the pros are that you distribute risk to a certain degree. So let's say if anything would happen with Ethereum, the entire trade would stop, which is a much bigger economic damage than, let's say, one car breaking down on the road, right? The other cars don't really care about that, unless they had something direct to do with that car, maybe the same destination. So that's one thing. The other thing is that it's lighter. So basically every single car just needs to be designed for its use case. You don't need to build a car that can, haul tons of weight, but also carry a family, but also drive through a small tunnel, but also, get a range of 3,000 miles. You can build a car just for what you need it to do. Someone needs a pickup and someone needs a small smart, right? So it allows for more customizability on a more granular level, which means high efficiency to some degree. Now, the Fed protocol thesis obviously has the benefit that everything runs on the same train. So, walking between the different containers or the different, cars, the car trains, is that what it's called? What do you call the cabins that people live in on the train? Not live, but they stay in, like
sleep cabins, kind of.
I guess, yeah. So you can just walk between them. It's much easier to engage between them, right? You can walk between them, and they're all fitting the same package. Yeah. So any interaction is just super easy. You can meet someone from a different train and just play cards with them on the table. You can deliver food, you can order food and it gets delivered 2 trains to the back. It's super easy. So that's the benefits of the Fed protocol thesis.
And if we were to dare go down the rabbit hole a little further, can you also expand on permissionless vaults and non-custodial trading in a language everyone can understand? Yes. Or as they say in Reddit, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yes. For that, I would like to explain bridges and IBC first. Yeah. So you have Ethereum, which is, the queen of crypto, the liquidity king, the biggest ecosystem by far. And you have all of these different teams trying to improve on Ethereum's issues. So they create their own systems, they create their own blockchains, right? Near protocol, Polkadot, whatever you want to name them, right? There's a ton of them. And the first thing that they do after they launch is create a bridge in order to allow users to come from Ethereum to them. But there's a massive issue with bridge. So this year alone, $2 billion have been stolen on bridge hacks, which is more almost than FTX collapse cost people. And we don't talk about that, which I find a bit weird. Because bridges are inherently incredibly flawed in design. You can imagine different blockchains as different continents. They speak their own language, they evolve parallel to each other, right? They have their own logic, their own ways of doing things. And so now someone comes along and wants to build a wooden bridge over the Atlantic Ocean. And in order for it to work, you have to A, hope it doesn't break, and B, you also, can't take any of your things with you across the bridge. You have to leave all of them in a little safe on the other side. So the entire duration that you visit the other continent, you just hope no one steals your stuff in the safe. And depending on who built the bridge, the safe may be bigger, the safe may be smaller, the safe may be built from cheap metal, the safe may have a hole. You just don't know that unless you are actually a smart contract expert that can look at the code. So bridges allow you to just, go in different chain. So they improve your quality of life a bit, but they very professionally hide the risks you're exposed to, which is that for the entire duration that you go on a different chain with using the bridge, you are exposed to that bridge being exploited. Yeah. For anyone that maybe used to be in finance or knows about finance, you're basically trading a synthetic or an IOU on the other chain. It's the equivalent of getting a piece of paper from your bank that says, oh, you definitely own that much gold. Like this piece of paper can prove to any other bank globally that you own this gold, like full promise, right? So now you go to, you fly from the US to England and you show that piece of paper and you hope the bank believes you that you have that gold. And you also hope that no one can steal the gold while you're gone, right? But instead of a bank, imagine it's just a shack or it's like it's a warehouse, right? You just hope no one knows that there's gold in it and no one's going to steal it. So it's an incredibly problematic system, because what happens if the bank now tells you, oh, we're willing to pay you 95% of what your gold is worth? So the entire problem starts from that point. There's so many inefficiencies in that system. On the other hand, the Appchain thesis needs a communication standard. Otherwise, none of this works, because all of these cars want to drive the same roads. All of these cars want to enable each other to go in garages and to visit the same shops. So now you have a communication standard. You have the different language being spoken across continents, right? But let's say it's actually more islands than continents. So now you have all these islands speaking the same language. And what you allow now is basically you say, if you come to my country with your passport from a different island, we're going to stamp it. We're going to acknowledge that it's the original passport. And now you can move freely in this new country. And if you fly to another country, they're going to stamp it again. And they're going to know it's the same original passport, but now it has a new stamp of this country. You have a standard. You have a communication standard. You don't build a wooden thing over an ocean that wasn't intended to exist. You now have a system where every island acknowledges that, those legal documents are the real legal documents. And if you stamp it, they have their own number assigned to you. And they know that you are in their island and you're engaging with, their products. And that's the Appchain thesis. So it allows anyone to natively trade their assets on different chains. And that is the baseline of what you asked me, which is the permissionless cross-interchain trading. So let's imagine now you have a new user coming in, and right now they have to decide between ecosystem. Polkadot tells them, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm better than Ethereum, come to me. And then you have Solana telling them, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm better than Polkadot and Ethereum, come to me. Then you have ETH, who can't even speak, and you have all the different groups just trying to sell you that they're better, right? It's a me versus you mentality. And in the corner, you have Cosmos, way too focused on itself, just building IBC. And no one finds out about it until it's very late. And so if you decide for Cosmos, you don't have to decide between the different islands, because you're free to move where you want to go. You might say this island maybe has a better supermarket. I want to use the supermarket, but I actually like the airport on that island better. And, I actually like houses that are available on this island better. So now you can move freely between those islands and pick and choose where you want to do which action. And you don't have all those islands pretending that they're better than the other one. They just have different use cases. So if you want to enable new users to hop between islands easily, what you would now have to do is explain to them how to build a boat and how to operate it. And what we want to do as Quasar is we offer you the boat, we run the boat for you, we drive you where you need to go, and we actually would also buy the products on the island that you want. So you don't even have to leave your house, if that makes sense. We just say, hey, you told us in this island you want bread, okay, and then on that island you actually want to pick up a postcard at the office, and then from that island you actually want to send a package out. All right, be right back. And then we are going to go ahead and do all of that for you. So we're going to drive the boat from island to island and do all the things for you, and then come back to you and tell you it all happened. Your package is sent out. Here's your postcard, and here's your butter. And so that is what we mean with interchain trading. We are going to just trade everything behind for you across the different zones, and you're just going to get the products at the end. And the non-custodial aspect is a very funky word, but it's also pretty easily explainable. It just means that we actually never hold your assets. So it's a very abstract concept, because in real life it doesn't work, right? You would have to give us money for us to be able to buy those products. But in crypto, what it basically means is that we just tell your wallet that that's where you can get all the stuff. And if you just press yes, if you just press accept, we're going to do the trading for you. So we actually never hold your money. Wow. We actually never hold any of your funds for that entire process. So if you come to us and you say, I want to own this product and this product and this product, and this product, we say, okay, those are now all available for you to purchase. Press yes once. And then when you press yes, suddenly you have all of them. And we never had your money. We never even had the products. That all happened automatically in the backend. And so that's what non-custodial means, because it means that we can't possibly steal your money, which is what this year has been a massive unfortunate trend.
It really has. And you've done an amazing job of simplifying everything there, because even just choosing between Polkadot, Solana, etc., and they're all claiming to be the best, is so daunting. And so presumably then that flexibility and freedom is what makes you think Cosmos is the future of blockchain and a better way of delivering decentralization blockchain, which ultimately has been promised from the start. And in many ways, it's almost like we lost our way slightly, but that was the original promise, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that we lost our ways because decentralization always came with so many friction points by design. And also IBC, the inter-blockchain communication protocol. So what I'm saying with the passport analogy, right? All the different islands agreeing on the same standard is still very complicated to use. You still need to set up a decentralized wallet. You still need to figure out how to go to the different IBC zones. So, I'm not preaching the perfect product that doesn't exist yet. But IBC enables for a new way of thinking about how we've approached decentralization. It goes from putting everything on one basket and then all the different baskets competing for their basket being better, to just allowing users to move between baskets in a natural way. So when you ask me if Cosmos is like the future of blockchain, it's a yes and no. Because IBC is coming to different ecosystems. It's going to come to Polkadot soon. It's going to come to Near soon. So in the future, I hope that you won't have to choose between the ecosystems. You're going to be able to just trade where you want and move with the liquidity if you want to. So it won't be Cosmos versus Polkadot. It's going to be Cosmos and Polkadot with the same wallet, with the same communication standard natively. And if Polkadot has better decentralized exchanges, then you might want to transfer there. But if Cosmos has a lending protocol, you may want to use that. So it takes away the friction points that we associate with decentralization, I think, in a very efficient way. So the future of blockchain is interchain enabled, I would say is my answer.
And I think it's that new way of thinking that's so important and so exciting. But for the business leader listening here, soaking everything up that we're talking about, why should they be taking this seriously, do you think?
I think there's a couple answers to that question. It obviously depends on the business, but it obviously depends on like the angle you look at it. I think for most businesses, those use cases are still not fledged out enough to be used. One of the counterpoints to that argument I'm making is actually Polygon. It's a chain built on top of Ethereum, and they have a lot of business kind of deals. They have Nike, I think, onboarded, Starbucks, so they use it for their loyalty program. So they basically, if you buy a cup at Starbucks, you get an NFT, which they're not going to pretend has a lot of value. But the point is that now you can track that user and you can basically reward them based on their NFT holdings. So I think it's totally dependent on the business. But what is fascinating, I think, is just the challenging all the things that we are just taking as a given. Right? In traditional finance, we just accept that the bank holds all our money and we just hope they don't block our account for whatever reason, right? I think anyone that's ever done international transfer knows the feeling of just hoping that it goes through, right? Which in my young mind is bonkers because it's your money. So even just having that feeling is already like, what? What do you mean? Just going to accept that they decide that for you, even though it's your money? So I think what business leaders can look at is using those products and maybe challenging what they have accepted as a given that may not have to be a given. And I think that the future for blockchain is super, for finance, obviously, there's so much intertwining already. Wall Street is very deep in crypto already, right? Because the use cases on financial products are just very easy to explain. But even beyond that, I have a friend, I actually used to work for him. The company is called Real Items. And not to go on a sales pitch, but they basically allow you to create digital twins of your physical products. And that means that you can track them through the supply chain and you can attach, sensor data, temperature data, location data, so that the user in the end that buys it knows that it's an authentic product, that maybe the fish wasn't kept too warm, right? And I think that's an interesting use case, supply chain management with crypto. But yeah, business leaders, I think challenging the status quo is what I would answer.
And the question I've got to ask is, what do you think are the biggest challenges are in this space? Because I would imagine it's securing and increasing adoption. But even if you increase adoption at scale, then you've got the other problem. And to use a Jaws reference, you're going to need to build a bigger boat, But I'm curious, what are the biggest challenges that you're seeing in this space?
Yeah, I think user experience is an
Yeah.
obvious first answer. Because right now it's just so hard to use. I would want my parents to use it, and I can't recommend them anything beyond just buying Bitcoin on Coinbase,
Yeah.
which is, obviously not ideal because they hold the money for you. What I've been just talking about for the last hour or so feels like is what they're doing. And you can't really recommend more than that, because if I tell them about hardware wallets, they're going to look at me like I'm an alien. So I think user experience is the obvious challenge. So we talk and we work with a lot of projects in Cosmos because, again, of the Appchain thesis, inherently we talk to other car manufacturers, if you want to call it that, and exchange how engines work and maybe what's the best door design. So all of them and all of us, we're all thinking about user experience, because that's what really hinders the growth. I think globally, people have come to accept that crypto is here to stay and it's going to grow, but a lot of people are not making the jump until their FOMO just takes over them completely, at which point they may not make the most rational decisions, which is not the best for the system and them. So user experience, in my opinion, is a big one. Another challenge is decentralization, as you've said. The Appchain thesis also inherently means that a car is less secure than a freight train with a massive engine, right? If you wanted to kidnap a car, it's easier, right? If you want to steal a car, it's easier. It doesn't mean that it's easy by any means, but you have to acknowledge that a car is less secure than a train, right? So I think decentralization is one of the big aspects, because having a blockchain be easy to operate, fast in execution, cheap to use, and also just be super decentralized is one of those classic, pick two, like 3 options, pick 2 situations. So, the decentralization aspect is a very tricky one. How do you create truly decentralized systems that are all of these things? So I would say those 2 things, decentralization and ease of use.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you on that. And I'm curious, if we get all those things right, what excites you about the future and the opportunities ahead?
I think allowing users access to novel financial products. So when we look at the current stock market landscape, there's a duopoly on market making, which is Virtue and Citadel Securities. So there's 2 companies in the world, at least in the US, pardon me, but that is most of the stock market globally, that facilitates almost all trades. So if you want to buy an Apple stock, they do that and they make money on that. That's the product. But if you want to invest into them, you can't. It's a private entity. And I believe that what excites me is that in crypto, there is no such thing as private entities in truly decentralized systems and in DeFi. Everyone globally from $1 can invest into whatever product they deem and see fit to be where they want to put their money in. And I think the radical decentralization, the radical enabling of your money in any shape or form is what really excites me, because it levels the playing field globally to allow access to, all those financial products. If you look at a hedge fund nowadays, you need to have $250,000 minimum for most to invest into them. If you're American, you need to be accredited. And if you're not from the US, good luck, right? Yeah. So you're already, and they, they may not have the highest returns, but that's just half of the equation. The other half is risk. And you can definitely say that if a hedge fund is not falling in the category of the ones in crypto that fail every week, they are very conscious with risk. They're very conscious with where they put their money. And so I believe that everybody should have access to those products. And I know that this is not against the will of those, professional money managers, because all they want is higher AUM, higher assets under management. So facilitating that in blockchain, where you have a trustless system, a non-custodial system, where your money trader actually never holds your money, and you approve the trades, for example, manually. So, that you don't wake up one day and throughout the night, they just traded all of it away without you realizing. But also having exposure to, those professional systems that are working day in, day out to try to figure out ways to deposit your money in an efficient way. That's what really excites me, democratizing access.
Now, we started our conversation today talking about your origin story, what put you on this path. Now, I want to find out a little bit more about you before you go. And that is, can you leave us with either a book that has inspired you that we can add to our Amazon wish list, or a song that helps you get your head in the zone that we can add to our Spotify playlist? All I ask is, what has been the soundtrack or the read of your choice throughout your journey? And is there a story behind it too?
Yeah, so it's one of the most recent books I've read, so it wasn't necessarily the start, but I felt it was one of the most impactful in how I think about stuff. And it's Stealing Fire is the book's name. I don't know if it's already on the list, but it essentially explores how since ancient Greek times, substances have been used to elevate the mind and think about stuff in a different way. And I found it very interesting because it challenges your kind of the same predetermined conceptions I was talking about before, just in a different way of just taking it as it's given. And it allows you to think, which of the arbitrary rules we are faced with daily are actually sensible and which have been a product of maybe unaligned incentives in the past that we just come to accept nowadays. So Stealing Fire is a very cool book.
Awesome. I'll get that added to our Amazon wish list. I'm intrigued and want to check that out myself. But before I let you go, for anyone listening, just want to find out more information about Quasar, anything we discussed today, maybe even reach out to you and your team. What is the best starting point for all that, including joining your community too? Because I'm sure you've got a passionate community over there.
Yeah, we got a couple thousand people, which I'm incredibly grateful for. The website is quasar.fi. Quasar as the star constellation. When two galaxies collide. And on that, you're going to get links to our Medium, where we post longer articles, monthly recap. So, a look behind the curtain, because when we believe, what we believe is that when we build in trustless and transparent systems, the company needs to be too. So you can have our Medium there. Our Discord is where people really engage, and we have a community. Twitter is, the classic short medium. And when it comes to me personally, I think, on Twitter, you can find me through the Quasar Twitter. You can also find me on LinkedIn with my full name. So, yeah, everywhere.
Awesome. Well, I'll get all those links added to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. It'd be great to get more people joining your community. And so much I've loved about your story, your origin story, what put you on this path, but equally your mission now, and simply to bring simplicity, fairness and ease of use, improved UX to DeFi, and opening the sector to much wider adoption. All things that the industry is crying out for right now. So I can't thank you enough for sharing that with me today. And I'd love to stay in touch with you and see how the project progresses. But thanks for sharing that with me today.
Thank you so much. And it was awesome to get the chance, Neil. And looking forward to the future.
Wow, what a great guy. I could have chatted to Valentin for hours today. Just his passion for this industry really shines through, and not just the passion for his work, but the entire space, and also that mission to bring simplicity and fairness and ease of use to DeFi, all with that same aim of opening the sector to much wider adoption. But what were your takeaways from anything we discussed today? And if you'd like to come on here and share your story, you're more than welcome to do so. Whether you've got a question, something you want to share about today's conversation, or anything at all, I want to hear from you. Simply email me at techblogwriter@outlook.com. If you would like to slide into my DMs and send me an audio message on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, you can find me at Neil C. Hughes. I always like to finish every episode by saying technology works best when it brings people together. And the fact that you tune in every single day further proves that point. So I hope you'll join me again tomorrow. But a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.